as per the usual, dudes and lady dudes, what is up? Welcome back to another deck profile. Today we're doing BUSTER BLADER, a deck I've been kind of messing with ever since the Link monster was revealed. I actually thought it was a little more interesting. I think it's a really cool deck. I think I'm not huge into the lockdown decks. The decks just kind of set up a lock and then just ride it home, because it kind of reminds me of just combo decks. Usually they have to go through a combo to get to that kind of lock, and so that's usually just not my style. I like a little more interaction in my duels. So but I do think it is really cool, and I love that he's just like a classic monster, a classic Yu-Gi-Oh monster. So I did decide to build it anyway. So it's a cool like lockdown deck anyway. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it. Starting off with our main deck here. To do the obvious stuff, you gotta play 2 BUSTER BLADER and 1 BUSTER BLADER, the Destruction Sword Master. I've actually seen some people play like 2 of him and 1 of him. For me right now, keep in mind this is also just like my first build. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out where the centering is. Since it's my first time building it, I'm gonna go 2 and 1. I'm not entirely sure about that, but I also feel like sometimes you do need to have at least one of these in the deck, but you don't always have to have one of him in the deck. So that's why I'm doing that there. But yeah, 2 and 1. You really don't use them for any effects. You mainly just use them as fusion material. Next up, we have the best normal summon, the best engine card in the deck, really. It's Buster Whelp. This card is absolutely phenomenal for the archetype. It is your Strato, so on normal summon it searches any Destruction Sword card. Has some bonus effects that actually don't come up that often, but they can. And the other important thing is it is level 1, so keep that in mind when we get to some of the other stuff. Alright. Let's see. 2 copies of Dragon Buster Destruction Sword. I actually think this is pretty correct. If you play 1, it can just make it more fragile, where like your opponent can DD Crow you, and sometimes that makes it so you can't set up the extra monster zone, or the extra deck lock on your opponents. But having the second one can potentially make it so you can still set it up even through a DD Crow, or just later in the duel. Maybe if you just like went through 1, you weren't able to establish the other, but getting to the other one like from deck, you're able to equip it and just do other things that way. And also, if you play 2, you can actually not that crazy unoften end on 2 of these. So even if your opponent has an out to 1 of them, you will still keep the other one and keep them locked out of the extra deck, which is pretty crazy, honestly. Then for the extender. So I'm playing like a more mid-ranged version of this deck, so this is why this stuff may look a little bit weird, but I'm actually playing 3 copies of Jester Confit and 3 copies of Tenyi Spirit Adhara. These are your extenders, and it's very important. The main thing is they jump out of the hand very easily, and they're level 1. That's mainly what they are there for. They're just small monsters, and they jump on the board really easily, and you'll see why that matters in a little bit, but that's mainly all they're for, getting you link material while also being level 1. And not needing your normal summon. And then for the only other monster we play, 3 Ash. Pretty standard. Like this deck is really, really not great going second, so I just felt that they were just a couple cards I really just wanted to play just generically. Like going first, it's an extra disruption. Going second, it's a very, very needed disruption, and hopefully your opponent has a hand where like this or just impermanence can stop them, or maybe a combination of the 2, and hopefully you draw it. So I think you have to play something in the main deck so that you don't just automatically lose every time you go second. So yeah, that's what I'm playing there. And then for the card that kind of makes like the rest of the stuff make sense, we have 3 copies of Where Art Thou. This is a very, very cool card. We saw this played in Spirals pretty recently in the last format. But yeah, pretty much all this card says is if you control a level 1 monster, you can add a level 1 monster from your deck to your hand, and if you don't normal summon a monster with the name of the monster added that turn, you'll take 2,000 damage. So you don't really care about the 2,000 damage. This is just one of those decks. If you set up your lock, you're just going to win. There's not going to be any damage ever. So Where Art Thou is very, very cool for that kind of stuff. And yeah, so the idea is like draw this with any level 1 and you can go. And even if you draw this with Buster Whelp, you can search for like Jester Confit and just get like the extender that you needed to like actually get into the Link 2 after going after using Buster Whelp. So it's pretty much 3 copies of Buster Whelp, and if you already have Buster Whelp, it's actually just more extenders to add to your hand. So really cool card. I really like it. Really helps with the consistency of the deck. I'm a big, big fan of this card. And next up, we play a couple of one-ofs. We play 1 Sky Striker Mecha Hornet Drones, 1 Instant Fusion, 1 Monster Reborn, and 1 Upstart Goblin. So Upstart, obviously pretty basic, just kind of makes your deck 39 cards, so just a little consistency boost. Monster Reborn, a nice little extender. Sometimes getting those extra bodies out or getting like a Buster Blader back from grave can be the difference between like setting up certain like awkward situations, and it's just a good extender. Any of your level 1s plus this at least gets you to the Link 2, which depending on what you drew can get you there, and that's what matters. Instant Fusion has a lot of utility in this deck. It adds a little bit of versatility going second so that you can, and it's another card like paired with the hand traps, can help the deck with its going second problem, as well as giving you a level 1 on board. This is also a card that just puts a level 1 to make Arfthau more alive. So that's super important as well, and also Millennium Eyes helps you go first. So just really, really versatile. Even though it takes up multiple extra deck slots, I still felt like it was like just too good when you do draw it to not play it. And then Mega Hornet Drones, kind of in the same vein as Instant Fusion. It's just very, very versatile. I mean, this gets you to your Link 2 and puts a level 1 on board because the token is actually level 1 without even using your normal summon. So that was like pretty powerful to me, in my opinion. So I thought that was actually pretty good, and yeah, so that's why I'm playing it. And it doesn't take too much extra deck allocation. Only like 1 slot in the extra deck just like makes that card really good. So I'm a big fan of that. And then the last spell we play is 3 Called by the Grave. Nothing too crazy here. This is just Ash is a pain. DD Crow can actually like ruin everything. DD Crow's like worse than Ash. You can play through Ash like pretty easily in this deck. DD Crow is the problem because kind of like against Invoke, like the same thing. If you activate memories from Grave and they DD Crow, you're like Buster Blader, you won't even have materials, so you already like banished the card as cost, and if they banish the Buster Blader, you probably won't have materials engraved, so you just like wither, like your card just like fades and you don't even get your fusion monster out, and so you probably just lose because you just ended like Buster Dragon and like the Link 2, and then you just immediately lose from there. So DD Crow's a pain, so just trying to fight off that. And then for the traps, this is like pretty standard stuff here. 3 Trap Trick, this gets you to Prologue. It's the best like card in your deck. This card's insane. 3 Prologue. This card's wild. It summons your Buster Dragon, the Synchro. It sends as cost any Buster Blader monster as well as a Destruction Sword card as cost. So you send those and then you just summon the Buster Dragon out. It's actually insane, and then it also can like protect your board from the graveyard, which also is like really cool. Yeah, big fan of this card. This card's actually really good. It's like why the deck is able to do what it does. You also got to play 2 copies of Memories. This card is what you're going to send off of Prologue because it can banish itself as a quick effect from Grave to then banish the fusion materials from Grave to make the fusion. So you use this to dump this. This summons the Synchro, and then this will immediately after that try to summon the fusion. And then once you get both set up, the Synchro equips the Buster Dragon to the fusion, and then your opponent is skill drained as well as cannot summon from the extra deck at the same time, which is pretty nasty. So you got to play it, and that's why you got to play 2 of this, because if you draw 1, you need to have 1 in the deck for Prologue to dump. You need to get it in Grave as fast as possible, so that's why that matters there. Bloop, bloop, bloop. And then for the rest of the traps, 3 Impermanence. This, again, like, you don't want to just auto-lose going second, so pair this with Ash and Instant Fusion. You have a handful of cards in the deck that do help you go second. And then 2 Compulse. This was like an ancillary slot I decided to throw in there. I felt like in test hands, the consistency was there. I'm consistently seeing combo, and even combo through a hand trap a lot of the time. So, this was like a cool slot because we're playing like 3 Trap Trick. It's pretty common to just draw like Trap Trick and a Prologue, or like 2 Trap Trick. So sometimes you just want like an extra utility card. So after your opponent is maybe potentially able to break through your stuff, or if you didn't even set up your stuff, this was like a defensive card to like keep you alive until you're able to like actually get back into your lock and then try and take over the duel from there. So I thought it was a nice card. It's only 2 slots in the deck. It could be more extenders. It could be something like what's it called? Oh, man. What is that card called, man? Oh, man. World Legacy Succession. The Monster Reborn, but you have to reborn to a Link. Because you can just, like, summon any Link 1, link it into Link Rebo, revive it. It's pretty cool. Like, good with Instant Fusion and other stuff like that. So I thought, like, that was pretty cool. But, yeah, that's the main deck. 40 cards on the dot. I'm not really messing around. This is a deck you really don't want to mess around with consistency there. So 40 cards. Let's move into the extra deck here. Starting off with the Link 1s, we have Link Karibo, Relinquished Anima, and Sky Striker Ace Kagari. These are pretty self-explanatory. You play a million level 1s in your deck, so you really have to have these. This is like better going first, this going second, obviously, in like a mid-range game, like stealing your opponent's stuff. It's pretty cool. And also just like for a deck that inherently has trouble going second, because like half your deck is like level 1s, if your opponent does flub up or just have like a monster pointing up, this can immediately like either start baiting the gates or just start ripping through a board by itself. So that was pretty cool as well. And then Kagara, you just play this as a 1-of so that the Hornet Drones is like a 1-card link too without your normal summon, because you just go Hornet Drones link into this. This adds back the Hornet Drone token, and then you can Hornet Drones again for the second material. And it's level 1, of course, making your War Thou live, which is awesome. For the Link 2s, I play 2 copies of the Companion Whelp. This card is or Protector Whelp, sorry. That's the new translation. This card's really good. On summon, it dumps any Destruction Sword card from your deck to the graveyard. That's why you have to play like this weird Buster Blader, because he's not a Destruction Sword card, but he is. But he's also Buster Blader on field or in grave. So like sometimes you just want to dump that Buster Blader, so sometimes that matters. Sometimes you're just dumping the Buster Dragon so that it's in grave for you to get that extra deck lock later on, and a bunch of other stuff. Like you can dump anything. Like this card's actually really versatile in that way. And then also after that, if you have a Buster Blader in hand, you can just special summon it. And then the other effect it has is if you if a Destruction Sword Master, what is it? Oh, that's right. If a Buster Blader monster didn't attack at the end of your battle phase, you can just like target that Buster Blader monster, and your opponent just takes damage equal to his attack. So sometimes your opponent thinks they can just stonewall you by not like leaving any monsters on field. So you can only just like deal 400. You don't want to change the Buster Dragon to attack mode, so they're just like, screw it. You can just deal me 400 until I draw out to your board. But then like every end of your battle phase, you're also just burning your opponent for like 3,000 more damage. So it really racks up really quick, puts them on a much quicker timer than they think they could be at. Union Carrier. Sometimes when you can't go combo, you just want to like, and you could just put like 3 materials on board. You just go like Union Carrier and like attach the Buster Dragon and just play like, well, you're locked out of the extra deck. Hopefully you're playing a combo deck that just can't even break through this. So, and just cross your fingers. Hope that gets you there. Just weird. Just comes up in like weird situations. Barricade Board Blocker. This card's really interesting because this card only comes up in like a very specific situation, but in one test hand it came up. So if you draw both memories, sometimes instead of going the Companion Whelp or Protector Whelp, you just want to go him and discard one of the memories, and then and then you just do it backwards so that the prologue can actually dump the Buster Dragon instead of dumping the memories, because memories is already in grave. So you can just do it backwards, but it does make that very specific hand, that very specific brick hand, not a brick hand anymore. So it's just a 1 card that makes like a possible like terrible hand like playable. 1 Unicorn. This card just again like comes up with in like weird situations, mid game situations. If you didn't draw combo or you're not able to get back into it, you're just playing like a mid range game. You're just like, I just got to remove something and go from there. So it comes up. And then for the fusions, 2 of our Buster Blader, the Dragon Destroyer Swordsman. This card's insane. He says if your opponent, he changes all dragon monsters your opponent controls to defense mode and negates their effects. He deals piercing, but he like can't attack directly. So he's very good because like your Buster Dragon changes everything your opponent controls to dragon. So he's essentially just a skill drain on legs, but he can attack directly, which is his 1 downfall. So sometimes it can be annoying to try and actually get a win over somebody. But yeah, for instant fusion stuff, I play 1 Thousand Eyes, 1 Millennium Eyes, and 1 Dark Fire Dragon. Good going second, good going first to protect yourself from certain hand traps, and Dark Fire Dragon. Also a very interesting card. Sometimes there are very specific hands where you just have to put a dragon in the graveyard because your fusion actually takes Buster Blader plus any dragon. So if you didn't already open a way to get a dragon in grave, sometimes if you just open instant fusion, you're just like, I'll just make Dark Fire, link him in and something else into the link too, and there's your dragon in grave, and that can actually get you there. So that's pretty cool. And then the last 2 cards is the 2 Buster Dragons. I just played 2 of him and 2 of the fusion because if it doesn't work the first time, you may have a chance later in the duel to like get back into the lock. But usually after that, if you couldn't get into the lock, like you either lost or you did and you won. So I felt like 2 and 2 is like the perfect number. You would never really need more than that. But yeah. That's pretty much it for the deck profile, guys. I think it's like a really, really cool deck. If you love like the classic cards, this is a really cool archetype. It can beat any deck. Like that's the thing, is that this deck can just beat any deck, especially any combo deck, which like a lot of the meta can end up being. which is just like crazy. So definitely like keep an eye out for like stuff like this. I mean, I've seen more combo-y builds of this where you play like the Guard Dragon stuff, the Crusadia stuff, all of that. I'm just not personally into like the combo-y type decks and stuff like that. So I play a more like simplified version with just like the strict consistency cards, strictly just what you need, not a bunch of the extra stuff. And it seems to work for me. I mean, like pretty consistently, and I can beat other decks. I can beat Adamantia going first specifically, or if they brick or I have like 1 or 2 hand trips, I can actually beat them going second as well. So I think it's pretty cool. But of course, guys, let me know your thoughts down below. If you have any advice, I am very, very new to BUSTER BLADER. So definitely let me know if you're a little more seasoned, a little more of a seasoned veteran than I am. Definitely let me know your thoughts down below on the build, any advice you'd have for the build. And yeah, that's pretty much going to do it for me here, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, subscribe to the channel if you have not yet. And I will see you in the next deck profile. Peace.